G'day, my name's Dave Chauhan. I'm all the way from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here to share three powerful secrets from Nautical Leadership model that will turn chaos into clarity and uncertainty into your biggest leadership advantage.
You're watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration, where we share interviews with incredible leaders who are crushing it in life and business.
Dave, man, it's good to have you on the show today. Just glad to be able to talk to you a little bit beforehand. Now, your story spans from factory floors to boardrooms. What was the real world moment that inspired you to create the nautical leadership model?
There wasn't one moment, there wasn't that lightning strike that often people think. It was a series of small failures, the stumbles, and eventually getting to the point where I felt I need to take that leap of faith and be courageous enough to do what I really believe in. About last year in November, I was about to finish my program from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, GEES MBA program, and I had this epiphany that why did I start this program? Why did I start this journey? And from that moment, I started reflecting back on various moments in my life where I had to make some tough leadership decisions. And for me, leadership doesn't happen in one moment. There are these small moments that you make over time in your life. And that's how sort of I started my journey.
That's awesome. You say online that leadership isn't about avoiding storms, but about learning to captain through them. Can you share one storm that you faced that shaped your approach?
So here's one of the moments I remember early on during my career. We had this project that was going seriously bad. We had serious snags, serious bumpy road, and we were sitting in this room where we were looking for contract extension. And my director looked at me and the rest of the team, and this is the guy who was always unemotional, pretty poker face, and he said the words with this utmost intensity that I'll never forget. And he said, if we fail to get this contract extension, the blood of families will be on our hands. And it felt almost melodramatic, but when I realized that leadership isn't about pretty pictures, leadership isn't about what management spiel and the management talk you always talk about. In the end, leadership is about real human beings. That's when sort of it hit me. And this wasn't the first time, and this wasn't the last time, and I felt that weight and felt that pressure. And before this, project was supposed to go hunky dory. Project was supposed to go fine. Everything was well laid, and things happened which were outside our control. And that's when I felt that even the best companies, the best professionals, we can plan everything. We can't really dictate what world's going to do around us. We can't dictate a pandemic, or we can't dictate what's going to happen in market, or that might start across the globe and how it might impact everything else around us. So from that perspective, it landed upon me through my years of experience and looking at every snapshot and every situation, every tough situation that I was in, to find myself that how did we get there? And the simple response was, it wasn't because of the bad planning. It was because the world itself is very uncertain. And it's not a quarterly thing anymore. It happens almost every day.
Now, if we go into the nautical leadership framework a little bit, how do you
Sure.
help leaders identify their beacon, those core values that anchor them when everything else kind of feels chaotic?
Look, in some ways, it might feel it's a little bit abstract. But when leaders reflect upon what are their core values and connect it with their own identity, while it might seem that it's a long, lengthy process, it's relatively easy process, because when you go and look back in your own life and see what were those moments where you had to make this decisive action, or you have to think about what's right and what's wrong based on your own personal beliefs, then you start deciphering down what are your core values. And once you know your values, then by extension, you have to align your values with your organization, with the group that you're working with, your team that you're working with. And you have to align that every decision you make should pass that pub test, should pass that filter test. I am not the one who should be telling you what your values are. Nobody should. Your values are your values. But as long as those values are not harming, or not putting anyone else in danger, or not stealing, or not taking stuff from anyone else, your values are right. So once you align your values with what your purpose is, then in some form and shape, you will start to see a coherent pattern of your own decision making. And every time your gut tells you that that's the right thing, that's my identity. In a way, I tell that it's the simple thing that you can do for the next 7 days. every decision you make, whether it's a decision about something in your family, whether you make a decision when you're talking to a client, whether you're looking at a really frustrated bad email that you have to deal with, just pause and reflect upon yourself and think about for 7 seconds and see what kind of human being I want to be after I finish this activity. And that gives you a sense of your values.
And that's powerful. My wife has an 8-year-old son from another marriage that is just a cool little guy, but I've been talking to him a lot about defining his identity and trying to decide what type of a person do you want to be. I went to have lunch with him today at his school with a bunch of other little third grade kids, and there was this one kid just being a jerk. That the lunch lady, the teacher, is trying to get him to do what he's supposed to do. He threw his milk, and so I said, "Hey, stand up, get over here." He kind of looked at me. The teacher's looking at me, or the lunch lady's looking at me crazy, and I said, "You come over here." So you pick that up, and I had a hold of the milk with him, and listen, I'm happy to have you sit here, but if you're going to sit here, you're going to be a leader. I do not. Remington said Remington does not surround himself with kids that are acting like jerks, that are being a bad inspiration. You're a sharp kid. You're a good leader, right? Yeah. I said, okay, if you're going to be an inspirational kid, if you're going to be a good leader, you're welcome to sit here with us and help Remington lead the other kids, be a good example. If not, get out of here. You need to go sit somewhere else. And he's kind of, you could tell, walked off shaking, but he sat there the rest of the lunchtime being quiet, just being a good example. But I think that's a good thing about that beacon. I mean, even a kid, if they could read your book and just see what is their beacon, what are their core values, what do they want to become, I think that's such a powerful thing. Are you seeing that being real impactful? I know you've taught this before ever publishing the book. What kind of an impact have you seen from that identifying your beacon?
It's interesting. When I was penning these concepts down, I thought this is something that's only valid for me to some degree. Or then at some stage I started thinking, or maybe few people will look at this book and they'll say, yeah, that resonates with me. But when you get out and when you start talking and when you start sharing with other people, and by now I've spoken with business leaders, I've spoken with leaders who are leading not-for-profit organizations, and I've spoken with leaders who have built successful businesses. And what I'm finding is finding purpose and finding that beacon in life is innate, fundamentally human value. No matter who we are and no matter what we do and where we come from, it is fundamentally human thing to understand where's our life and what's the bigger meaning of life and how it's connected together. Humanity itself is a long journey, and without going into spiritual part of it, and I'm not talking about spiritual stuff, I'm talking about we don't understand sometimes that humanity in its entire life cycle, where we are with 100,000 years, our life is just a mere chapter. And when we start to see ourselves as part of that long story, we try to see that, there were people long before us and there'll be people long after us as well. And how we are connected to this story is really deep. And I think that's where you start seeing yourself. It's a higher, it's a the next level of awareness at times.
And I love how you said that we're a chapter or just a portion of this massive book that's been written, but you can almost connect that and look back at the fraction of a percentage of people who have actually left a mark, actually changed the world for better or for worse. I think that's kind of a cool thing, just when you wake up in the morning to think, is my chapter going to be read or remembered by anybody in the future? Am I doing anything today to change the world or not?
Absolutely. I like the way you put it.
Your Wayfinder concept is about adapting through uncertainty. What's one practical way that leaders can make confident decisions when information is incomplete?
So that's a great question, because we are often told that we have to be agile, but nobody tells us how to be agile. We are told that we have to be adaptable, but nobody tells us how to be adaptable. And the reason is because we think these things come naturally to us. And I was having this conversation with somebody else, and my response was, yes, breathing is also natural, but often we have to remind ourselves that breathe. And it's very human thing to do that. When we see fright and flight response, first thing we do is we stop breathing. In the same way, we have to sometimes remind ourselves how to be adaptable. And I think leaders often forget, when we're leading organizations, when we do dealing with all lot of uncertainty and chaos, and and there's pressure about KPIs and results, we forget that how to be adaptable. And one thing that leaders can practically build in their self in their own behavior is scanning the horizon. And what I do is that every week you can ask yourself and sit down and start jotting it down, that what is the one thing that you have seen in your past 7 days that has given you an indication that industry is going to change, your subtle cues that customers are sharing in terms of their feedback, the discerning voice within your team that one guy or one girl is trying to say and often gets ignored. And you can be pragmatic about it, you can be intentional about it, and you can sit down and start writing it down. And when you start writing it down, over time, it becomes your memory. It becomes your habit to see that everyone else ignores. It becomes your natural skill set. And that's one thing that leaders can often do. And it only becomes when you are intentional about it.
You mentioned being intentional. That's such a powerful thing about leadership that you don't often see with common employee, or the person who stays stuck as an employee for the next 40 years is typically not as intentional as a leader who's making intentional decisions on where their path is going to go. Now, talking about your seafarer concept, seafarer is about being courageous in action. What's one small but powerful leadership step that someone could take tomorrow to embody that courage?
I often say, first of all, you have to differentiate between whether you're dealing with a crisis situation or whether you're dealing with situation that's business as normal or business as usual. And in both ways, how leaders or seafarers behave is slightly different. If you are in crisis situation, and I'm talking about example of Captain Sully Sullenberger, who had his plane with both engines cut off. In that situation, you can't wait for any more information. You have to rely on your gut feeling, you have to rely on your years of expertise, and you have to land that plane on the Hudson. You can't wait for further more information. In other cases, when you're dealing with business as usual, then you have to start building your ability to look for what's good enough plan. And that's again intentional. What's good enough plan? Good enough plan is plan when you feel that data and information is about 70% correct and you have about 70% confidence in your plan, and it's the moment for you to make a decision and move forward. There's never going to be a moment in time where you feel that everything is going to be all established, because by the time your plan is all fully formed and baked, things outside your plan would have already changed. So there is no reason to wait for a plan that's 100% perfect. And that's, again, leaders will have to define and make it happen intentionally.
Now, I know you wanted this to not be a pitch fest, just pitching your book that's coming out, but I want to take a minute here, if that's okay, and share. If you guys are watching this right now on Amazon Fire TV, he's got a book coming out called Captain Set Sail. Book launch is September 11th to 25, right?
Yes.
So if you're liking what you're hearing right now, pause the show. If you're on a newer smart TV, scroll down, click the link. There'll be a call to action at the bottom where you can actually get that book, or go check out the website and just get some more information, get in connection with him. But I'm loving this already. I'm definitely going to grab a copy of your book when it's available. So you teach balance with heart and steel. How can you share an example of where you had to combine empathy with decisiveness to lead effectively?
So here's an example of heart and steel in action, Kurt. The one thing that most leaders often deal with is bad performance, or somebody not performing up to the standard, or giving high performance. In that situation, you have to deal with the steel part, where you have to draw the boundaries. You have to establish what do you really expect from that role. At the same time, the hard part is something that guides you, that in the end you have to think that you have to be honest about this person's future, and you have to help them. You have to make sure you do it with empathy. And if it means that it's a bad fit, how do you help them to find a different job and or find a different career? As a leader, it's your innate responsibility to make sure you do that. At the same time, you don't have to expect poor performance. You don't have to not give the feedback and hope that things will go hunky dory or things will go fine itself. And that's the perfect balance that leaders can often make. And how do you do it is keeping both elements of your leadership alive and balanced.
Now, many leaders struggle with perfectionism. How do you encourage authenticity without losing credibility?
I think perfectionism is overrated. We, as humanity, and I believe that we have celebrated leaders who who have given an impression of these warriors kind of figures who have done it, win it all. In reality, we humans are messy, and there's no such thing called perfectionism. I feel it's a constant journey of making something better, and this innate thinking of making something better than yesterday what it was, whether it's a product, whether it's an organization, whether it's a plan. And how you do it is, as a leader, you accept that, with the circumstances that I am in or my organization is in, and with the information that I have, are we presenting the best solution that we can do in this situation? And when you are really honest about it, and when you're connected with your purpose, you will find yourself making these decisions over and over again that will strengthen your relationship with your purpose. And that's how you start getting better outcomes.
This interview is sponsored by Newswire magazine. We celebrate the entrepreneurs and thought leaders shaping the future, those who don't just adapt, but innovate, who inspire others to think bigger, lead boldly, and create lasting change. Only a select few are featured in Newswire magazine, and for those who earn a place on the cover, the opportunities are unmatched. Your story shared with a global audience, your achievements celebrated on national billboards, reaching millions. Every leader has a story. Every vision deserves a platform. Who will rise to the top? Stay tuned. You're witnessing greatness unfold.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. We're on today with the author of Captain Set Sail. Man, I'm glad to have you on the show today, Dave. This is a great conversation we had so far.
I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
So what is the biggest leadership myth that you see holding people back, and how does Nautical Leadership actually debunk it?
That's a deep question, Kurt. In it itself, when you look across, what we have made leadership today is a celebration of success, celebration of achievement, and we often forget that it's not the leader that we are to celebrate, it's everybody else behind them. We forget that in every moment of success, there are several moments of failure, there are several moments of cushioning, there are several moments of doubts, there are several moments of reinforcing what your values are and what's the purpose. We forget that, it's not about results, it's not about that quarterly result that delivers, but in itself, it's what got you to those results. It's the hard work of team members, that vision that really makes people get out of bed and go in and fight through hell for you. That vision part, and that vision comes from purpose. It's the human connection of trust and honesty and your own vulnerability and your courage that makes them feel that you are the leader who will go and fight any battle for them. You are going to cover their back. It's that moment. But often what we see is the final results, the glory that comes out of it. And we think that leadership is about results. Results is a derivative of what we get. In a way, I say it this way, that when you look at a game, don't fall in with the rules of the game. Fall in with love for why we are playing the game. In business world, in operational world, KPIs, targets, quarterly result, financial performance, they're the rules of the games. You have to abide by the rules of the game, but don't fall in love with the rules of the game. Fall in why you are playing the game. And in the same way for business world, why you're there to begin with. What's the purpose of your organization? What's the purpose of your company? That's what you have to be crazy about, and that's what you have to be in love with.
Now, I know you've done consulting and a lot of stuff helping teams. Are you available to come out and speak at events? We host a couple of events a year, and Newswire magazine actually sponsors events in the United States. Do you have? Are you available to come out and speak either at events or to corporations who are trying to help their employees become better leaders?
Yes, I am now, and the reason I'm available is because I feel I'm like this broken record who want to talk about this stuff over and over again. That's mission for me, and that's mission of my life now, to connect people and organizations with their beacon, their wayfinder, and their seafarer approach, their mindset, and how leaders and leadership can become more wholesome, how leadership can become more comprehensive, and you can start thinking about that leaders don't have to walk to the way of success by leaving a carnage behind them. Leaders have to take their entire crews with them to that moment of success, where they're not sharing the glory as it's their tell all, win all purpose game. It's about them going through this purposeful journey and got to something, build something that was meaningful and that is meaningful for the community, for humanity at large.
Man, I love that, Dave. I wish I'd have met you 15, 20 years ago when I owned the pharmaceutical company and the cell phone stores and all the businesses, because I started out, I know, way too strict, way too driven of a, that type D personality where it is get stuff done no matter what, push people out of the way, just figure out how to solve the problem. And I could have run a lot better businesses if I'd have learned earlier to help the team see the vision, help them learn to love people. And that was when our businesses really taking off is when I followed your advice that I'm hearing again now, is just setting them on that path to see the vision, see where we're going, see that it's not just about the dollar value we can generate, but about the people we can help and the problems we can solve. So I wish I'd have known you 25 years ago. This would have been probably a big help for my businesses.
Thank you.
You often talk about building resilient, human-centric teams. What's one exercise or practice that you could recommend to strengthen team trust?
There are multiple ways of doing things, and let's get to the practical part of things. I call these mistake Mondays. And I'm not talking about let's go and celebrate failure. I think that's overrated. But what you can do is be honest about your own failures. You can say that, I made a mistake. And when you start saying that often, that I made a mistake, and then the next continuing part in this sentence would be, I made a mistake, and this is what I'm going to do to fix it.
Yeah.
That part makes it powerful. And when you say that, you can encourage others to say that again, which means everyone's okay to make mistake and learn from their mistake and correct it, because they see you as somebody who's an equal valuable and equal machine of making mistakes as they are. And when you do that, that sort of builds trust that, yes, he can make mistakes and he's there to fix it, so can I won't be punished for making mistakes. And when you start doing that, it becomes an organization where toxic happiness or toxic culture of we know it all goes away, and the new culture of we are on this discovery to find and create something meaningful starts. And when that happens, I think it just starts something more powerful in an organization.
And that's powerful. And I could tie that directly to a conversation I had with a buddy the other day who a little over 10 years ago made a mistake when he was real new at a job. He was just working a real retail job, and cost the company over $80,000 at this single retail location. And he said the boss could have come in, just chewed him out, fired him, tried to hold part of his next paycheck or whatever. But he now owns one of the retail stores. He's a licensee, kind of like a franchisee, but is just crushing it. He's led incredible teams and stuff. But over just what you said there with, I made a mistake and now here's how I fixed it. I think we need to have some of that nice Australian coffee when I get out there.
Oh, you'll love Melbourne coffee.
Your book, Captain Set Sail, launches soon. How are you using it to open doors for speaking, workshops, consulting opportunities? And also, how does somebody get registered to get a copy of that book?
So what we decided as a launch was, it's a book, but it's a book full of ideas, and we are more passionate, and I'm more passionate for the idea itself. So what we started was, how we are going to launch this book, and the way we came up was, we're going to set up a panel discussion and start almost as a movement. So in Melbourne, we have this event set up now in one of the most iconic venues in Melbourne, the Wheeler Center, which houses in the State Library of Victoria, where we are having this candid conversation where we have leaders coming from different walks of life. Some of them are for corporate, people who have established multi-million-dollar companies, and others are from for purpose or not-for-profit sector. And we're starting this conversation that what is the common element between leaders when they run different purposes, different types of organization, but the common elements of the book that we're talking about are basically the same. As a leader, no matter where you are, whether you are making a decision for your family, whether you are making a decision for a small community club, or whether you're making a decision for your multi-million-dollar company, or whether you are a leader who's running the entire country, the basic fundamentals of leadership stay the same. And I'm not trying to oversimplify leadership. Leadership is complex, and leadership has to have so many elements of what makes a leader solid. But everything else aside, if these three elements are missing from your leadership, whatever you can do, it's not going to work for your company, for your organization. So from that perspective, we are wanting to start a movement we are wanting to have and make everyone talk about it wherever they can. And I often say that no matter you're sitting with a random stranger during a tram ride back home, talk about this stuff, because this stuff is important. And from that regard, yes, I'm available. I want to talk about it, and I want to talk more and more about it. So in some ways, the more we talk about it, it's not these are not my concepts. These are our shared concepts. This is the shared agreement we have as humanity and human to human with each other. And we have to talk about this so we can make it normal part of our everyday life.
For listeners who resonate with nautical leadership, what's the next step they can take with you beyond the book?
Come and talk to me. I'm available to have one-on-one conversations. I'm available and come talk to your people. I'm available to help you get through your own journey of understanding how your values can be connected to your purpose. Often it's a hard step because we see I do a work at a city council. How does this really align with me? And my response would be it should, and it must, because in some form and shape, we as humanity are moving towards more purposeful full society. And I have this firm belief that in about 10, 20 years' time, when AI will be so far advanced and everything it does will be so better than what we do as humans, what will continue to make us stay humans would be our connection with purpose. And that part means that we'll be sending our kids to kindergarten not to go and learn language or mathematics, because AI will be far more superior and better at it. We'll be sending our kids to make sure that they don't have to turn 40 or 50 like I am today to understand what's the purpose of my life. We will try to make them learn and connect with their purpose as fast as possible, because that's where humanity will start making leap forth uh, advancement in itself. And I think in that way, I want to have this conversation with you wherever I can or however I can.
I've heard people talk about their fear of AI taking over, taking all the jobs or whatever, but artificial intelligence does not exist at this point. That's something where, it's literally the sum of all human knowledge. If I get on one of my phones here and ask a question of Bard or ChatGPT or whatever the AI service is, it's reaching out and it's pulling all of the publicly available human knowledge and coming up with the best answer, written in a, well written, but it's still summarizing all that knowledge. So do you think that the leaders, the people who are really at the top of their game, really leading, really have that heart-centric, direction-driven leadership? I would still assume that if the AI is learning and summarizing the knowledge from humans, you're still going to have some sharp folks putting good information out there in order to keep AI growing, right?
So, Kat, I've been having these conversations in various forums, and some of these are really way far ahead in terms of understanding AI and part of the AI development and innovation culture. And what I've learned so far is AI is going to change humanity in the way that we have never experienced before. The transformation is almost going to be as big as it was when humanity discovered fire or when we invented wheel. We haven't had seen an invention like this for several thousand years. And that does not mean that, we have to be afraid of it. It simply means we have to prepare ourselves to be ready for it. And from that perspective, what we can do is we can keep the heart of humanity with us. And what I say is what we have to avoid is commoditization of humanity. So how we keep the heart with humanity, the heart of leadership, and what is it doing to humanity with us, and leave all the amazing stuff, the innovation, the development part, how it's good at doing so many things with AI itself. And I think in some form and some shape, AI will become not as a tool but as an extension of humanity. And that's what we have to prepare humanity and leadership for.
Now, legacy is central to your message. What does leaving a powerful legacy as a leader mean to you? And how can our audience start building theirs today?
To answer that, how about I give you with a thought? The freedom, the kind of life that we are living today in our personal individual lives, it's not something that I earned myself. It was because of the struggles of the previous generations and what they went through and what they believed in. We can talk about Martin Luther King, we can talk about Nelson Mandela, and we can talk about all the leaders who believed in what humanity should look like, what it is today. From that perspective, we had to start thinking about that what should humanity look like in 50 years from now? And when you think about it, stuff that I haven't earned today, I'm living it, I'm breathing it, and I'm cherishing fruits of it. It means that we have to start planting seeds now for the future generations. And from that mindset, if you start looking at your organization, that it's not about that what I'm building today, what kind of results we're getting this quarter, what kind of results we're getting this year. It's about what does this organization should look like in 10 years time. What does a person that you're dealing with, his life, or what should their life look like in 10 years time? When you start looking at from that lens, it will start giving you an idea what legacy should be. It's not about monuments, it's not about statues, it's not about how many articles you have on news media. It's about how you're going to transform somebody else's life and how you're going to create more leaders. And when you think from that perspective, I think your understanding of legacy will change.
Looking ahead, what do you see as the future of leadership in a world shaped by rapid change and technology?
100 years ago or 200 years ago, when we started making voyages, and that's how my concepts came to life and its form as it is right now. We were almost entering in a world that we have never seen before. Humanity or humans are curious creatures. We always want to discover and we want to take humanity somewhere else. Essentially, we have landed ourselves in a similar situation. The thing that we used to hear, that unprecedented event used to happen once in a century, once in 50 years, or once in a decade, that's not the reality anymore. These things, the disruption will come to us almost on a daily basis. And as leaders, we have to prepare ourselves for similar kind of voyages where there are no maps, there are no 10 steps to success or 10 steps of doing this and get to somewhere where you want to be, which means leadership itself will become extremely complicated. It will become complicated part because humanity itself is evolving and we're becoming far more observant and far more reliant species. At the same time, technology, society, the change, the cultural movement, it's all changing. So from that perspective, what I see future of leadership is being innate human to begin with, to tap into human values, and then connecting everything that you do and everything you do as a leader with those human values and putting it all together, that how it all makes sense.
Thanks for watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. This episode was designed to help you level up. See you next time.